I just can't see myself ranking him higher given all of the question marks on that team and what role he will end up playing. And unfortunately, because of that, the guys with the same amount of upside, I'm going to go ahead and put them ahead of him. Yo, Headliner Nation, we are into the thick of things. It is starting to heat up. The NFL draft is done. We've been doing rankings episodes over the last couple of weeks here, and the content is absolutely getting ready to explode here on the Fantasy Headliners. And today, I'm going to be hopping into my top 24 tight ends, and we're going to be breaking down who are the guys that you should be targeting in drafts this year. And speaking of fantasy football drafts, our 2024 fantasy football draft guide is already available. If you head down to the link in the description below and order yours today, you're going to get instant access to tons of rookie profiles, updated dynasty and rookie rankings, and then we're going to start opening up the redraft content over the course of the next couple of months to help you get ready for drafts. And of course, because it's electronic, it updates all the way until week 1 of the regular season. While inflation is hitting everything else around us, we kept the draft guide the same amount as last year, $21.99, for an absolute fire amount of fantasy football content. But it's time to hop right into it, and maybe it seems a little bit biased, but I think a lot of you will agree with me. I'm going with Sam Laporta at number 1. I went with Sam Laporta and Travis Kelce at number 1 and number 2. And even though Travis Kelce burnt a lot of people last year that used maybe a first-round pick or a high second-round pick, I don't think that we should just automatically cast him aside this season. The offense is going to look dramatically different for Kansas City. And even though Rashee Rice still has a lot of question marks about his availability for 2024, them adding Xavier Worthy and Marquise Brown is really going to help out the consistency of Travis Kelce. But I've got to go with my boy Sam Laporta, who looked absolutely amazing for a majority of the season. We know Detroit's going to have a similar game plan to what they have seen, and we also know that Ben Johnson absolutely knows how to take advantage of opposing defenses. So Sam Laporta, to me, may be one of the safest tight ends in all of football right now. But be very careful on how high you draft him, because honestly, if you're looking to draft him in the first or second round, I just don't feel like the value will be there. In number 3, I'm going to go with Mark Andrews. And we know when he's on the field that he's going to be a constant target for Lamar Jackson. The biggest question will always be the injuries, but I think it's worth it for Mark Andrews if you draft him maybe in the middle rounds, maybe like 5 or 6. If you have a shot at him, just make sure you back him up with somebody a little bit later. And number 4, I'm going to go with Trey McBride. And the Arizona Cardinals may have added Marvin Harrison Jr., but I really don't think that hurts McBride. It only helps him. Yeah, he'll lose out on a few targets we thought he might end up having, but the efficiency could be way better and cover all of that. George Kittle's going to come in at number 5, and he is one of the most volatile tight ends in all of football, because we know on one hand, he could win us on any given week, and on another hand, he could lose it for us on any given week. Now, and that just is the San Francisco offense, because you've got George Kittle, but then you've got CMC, you've got Debo, you've got Ayuk. They drafted Ricky Parcell. So when you look at what he can do in that San Francisco offense, it gets you super excited, but you also have to know that there's going to be some weeks where you could end up taking 1, 2, maybe even a goose egg from him instead. At number 6, I'm going to go with Kyle Pitts. And honestly, I don't know how this coaching staff could screw up utilizing him any more than what the other previous coaching staffs did. So I'm going to be on board with Kyle Pitts for one more time. If he can't get it done this year, it is absolutely a Kyle Pitts problem, and it's not a coaching problem. We'll see what ends up happening, but I feel like Kirk Cousins will be really good for him, and he could finally get that type of a season that we've been looking for. At number 7, I'm going to go with Evan Ingram. And as far as targets go, we know that Trevor Lawrence is going to look his way quite often. And Ingram ended up surviving the addition of Calvin Ridley last year. So even though they added Brian Thomas and Gabe Davis, I think he's still going to be able to survive both of those guys. And maybe the ceiling isn't super high, but he should still end up having a safe floor. At number 8 is going to be Jake Ferguson, and he needs to take another step forward this year. But it's the coaching staff's responsibility to get that step forward from him. When you look at this Cowboys offense, For me personally, outside of CeeDee Lamb, it's really underwhelming what they have done so far. We'll have to see where Dak Prescott spends a majority of his time looking, but Jake Ferguson has got to be number 2 right behind CeeDee Lamb. I'm going to go with Dallas Goedert at number 9. The running game is going to be much improved for the Philadelphia Eagles this season with Saquon Barkley. And the biggest thing I like about it is the attention that they're going to have to pay to him out of the backfield as a receiver. That could open up some of those lower targets for Dallas Goedert to eat over the middle of the field. I don't think he's got as much upside as we had seen from him in the past, but that floor should be pretty decent. At number 10, I'm going to go with Dalton Schultz. The addition of Stephon Diggs obviously is going to hurt his target share. You still have got Nico Collins, and you've got Tank Dell coming back as well, an improved run game with Joe Mixon. Dalton Schultz should have a pretty decent floor, but like we've talked about with some of these other guys, Evan Ingram, Dallas Goedert, those guys that have a lot of weapons around him, we're really not looking for a ton of upside. We're looking for the targets that at the tight end position just gives them like 6 or 7 points a week. At number 11, Pat Freiermuth, and I am way higher on him than what a lot of other people are right now. With losing Deontay Johnson, I think Pat Freiermuth could see a huge step forward this season, and instead of being just a red zone type of target, we see him utilized a lot more over the entire space of the field. At number 12, I'm going to go with Dalton Kincaid, and I would like to go higher with him, but there's still some question marks for me on what type of role he's going to play inside the offense. Is he going to be a traditional inline tight end? Will they run more 2 tight end sets with Kincaid and Dawson Knox in there? How much is Dawson Knox still going to be on the field? What type of role does Coleman play this season? Does he really have the type of year that we're hoping for? Because for Dalton Kincaid, if he's going to play outside and play in the slot, Coleman is going to have to be really, really good for the Buffalo Bills to take the pressure off of Kincaid, or we're going to see him fold kind of the same way that we've seen from Kyle Pitts. Early indications is that TJ Hawkinson will make his way back at some point this season, and when he comes back, the targets are still going to be there for him. Now, is he going to be a guy that you can draft a little bit later, and at the end of the season, when he's feeling a whole lot better, he makes some big moves for your team? Probably, but it won't be enough where you get him inside the top 12 for overall numbers on the year. At number 14 is going to be David Njoku, and he is taking a huge slide for me, and there's 2 reasons why. Number 1, they've added Jerry Jeudy, so there's going to be another weapon in this offense to take away some of the targets that David Njoku was getting last year. Number 2, and probably one of the biggest reasons why, is Deshaun Watson. When Deshaun Watson is the quarterback for the Browns, he doesn't ever look at David Njoku. When it's any of their backup quarterbacks or even Joe Flacco from last year, they're looking towards David Njoku the entire time. I don't know what Njoku did to Watson, but apparently it was enough for Watson to just ignore him. At number 15, Cole Kmet, and he was definitely a solid fantasy contributor the last couple of seasons. But his quarterback, his guy, Justin Fields, is now gone. They've added Keenan Allen, and they've added Rome Odunze. I don't know how many targets will be left over for him. I already know I'm going to get all kinds of hate for my Brock Bowers rating, but I've got him all the way down at number 16. Who's going to be the quarterback? Is it going to be Aiden O'Connell, or is it going to be Gardner Minshew? How will the run game be this year? Zamir White wasn't that bad at the end of last season, but we haven't seen this guy take a full workload for an extended period of time yet. You still have Devontae Adams, you still have Jacoby Myers, and you spent a 2nd-round pick on Michael Mayer last season. And how will Bowers be utilized? Will he play in line at the tight end position? Will he play in the slot? I just can't see myself ranking him higher given all of the question marks on that team and what role he will end up playing. And unfortunately, because of that, the guys with the same amount of upside, I'm going to go ahead and put them ahead of him. Hunter Henry is going to come in at number 17 for me. I'm a lot higher on him in the consensus, and I do think that he could end up going a lot higher than this ranking. We saw that he is a guy that can be utilized appropriately in that offense, especially in the red zone last season. But the problem is, will he be? And I don't know what the offense is going to look like this year. Definitely Drake May is going to be an upgrade over what they had last season. And they really haven't added a lot in terms of weapons on the offensive side of the ball to take away a ton of potential targets from Hunter Henry. Maybe he won't be the safest bet, but I do think he could have some pretty big weeks. Darren Waller is going to make his way into the top 18 here. And I don't necessarily think that he ends up staying here. And I don't think he goes any higher. If anything, I think think he ends up falling lower. But it's another added weapon for Daniel Jones, and with Malik Neighbors on the outside, it could open up a lot for Darren Waller. But again, we have to rely on Daniel Jones, and nobody really wants to do that. There's also question marks about whether or not he's even going to play this year. Can he stay on the field? So there's just a whole lot of issues here. I'm not going to go any higher with him, but if he does end up playing, I don't see how he doesn't end up inside the top 24. Mike Gesicki seems like a low-risk, high-reward type of pick this season. Now, Cincinnati has not done a great job in the last few years of utilizing the tight end position, but they've lost Tyler Boyd, and we have absolutely no idea how much T. Higgins may really end up playing this season for the Cincinnati Bengals. If Gesicki is there late, I don't understand why we don't take a shot. After Luke Musgrave went down with an injury, Tucker Kraft stepped in and looked really good with Jordan Love. Musgrave just didn't seem to get his feet under him and stay consistent through the first part of the season. But then at the end of the year, Tucker Kraft looked like he may be the guy to end up doing a little bit better than what we would see out of Luke Musgrave. At number 21, Jawan Johnson. And really at this point, he's a touchdown threat. Outside of that though, New Orleans, they just don't seem to utilize him across the majority of the field. Maybe he ends up taking another step forward this year, but I really don't think that he's a guy that we can trust to be consistent. Maybe just some high upside and good matchup. Dawson Knox at number 22. Now he's going to be a guy that's going to score some touchdowns, and I would not be shocked if he scores maybe 8 or so touchdowns this season. But with Josh Allen, he just really hasn't been utilized as a weapon everywhere on the field. He's normally just looked at when they get to the red zone. At number 23, Chiggy Oko. They've added Calvin Ridley, and they've tried to change the run game up a little bit with Tony Pollard. Chiggy Oko was a breakout candidate last season, but I don't know if I can trust banking on him again. And at number 24, Cade Otton led the league last season in routes run from the tight end position. But Baker Mayfield just doesn't seem to look his way as much as we would like. It's Mike Evans, it's Chris Godwin, and then it's the other wide receivers on the team. So for Cade Otton, does he score a few touchdowns? Potentially. Does he run a lot of routes? Absolutely, but routes don't translate into fantasy points. All right, Headliner Nation, there are my top 24 tight ends, and I absolutely know there's going to be quite a few guys up for debate with you. So make sure you leave me a comment down below on how you would change the rankings and what you would have done differently. But don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell notification so anytime we go live or drop new content, you'll know about it right away. But for now, I'm going to get out of here. Peace out, Headliner Nation. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you all in the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.